Welcome Northeast Conference fans to our latest NEC Now podcast on the NEC Overtime Pod. Today I am joined by recent Fairleigh Dickinson graduate and All-American fencer Natalia Toby. Today, as part of our NEC Votes educational initiative, we will be discussing Natalia's continual commitment to civic engagement as well as voter registration leading up to November 3rd's election. Natalia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. To say you had an impressive collegiate career would be an understatement. You made 3 consecutive NCAA championship appearances and earned 2 All-America honors. In 2018, your 13 wins at the NCAA championships broke the previous school record set by yourself for most wins by a night at a single NCAA championship. You also set the program record for highest individual finish. Can you just speak a bit about your fencing career and what brought you to compete at FDU?
Yeah, so I wanted to be close to home because I live in Bloomfield, New Jersey, and I wanted to be at a fencing team that wasn't very big because unlike a lot of sports, fencing, you only have 3 fencers who are competing at tournaments for each weapon. So I was thinking, do I go to a school where there's like 50 female women epeists, or do I go to a school that has significantly less? So that is one of the reasons why I chose FDU, and it's also because they, were very great about scholarships. So that was something that was very important to me because I graduated and now I have no student debt. So I'm thanking my past self 4 years ago for being in a great situation right now. So that's kind of why I chose FDU.
Yeah, that's great. I'm actually from New Jersey too, and I've been to the campus a couple times. It's really great to be able to keep it kind of close to home, and to have no student debt is amazing.
Yes.
But yeah. So although you're no longer a collegiate athlete, you graduated this spring, you're still working with FDU's athletic department to engage student athletes in civic and social issues. Why do you want to focus specifically on educating student athletes?
So originally, I didn't graduate thinking like I want to give back. It's funny to say. I remember it was around Mother's Day when the incident happened, and I emailed our athletic director Brad, and I said, "Can we do something for this cause? Like, can we run for mod because we're student athletes? He was an athlete. This would be great." And he said no. And I was furious because for the, a couple weeks later, our school was posting about Black Lives Matter, and, he put out a statement, and I was like, this is not right, and he called me and he apologized and he said, you know what, I'm all ears. Like, what can we do to make Black, athletes' lives at FDU matter? And I was so happy that he wanted to, one, apologize for, saying no, and then, doing something for Black lives. And then 2, just really listening to me. And I didn't want it to just be my voice because it's Black Lives Matter, not Natalia Toby's Lives Matter. So I had a call with as many students as I can. And I said, what do you guys want from our athletic committee? And it was a whole bunch of things, not just, support from our athletic staff, but it was things like having equal representation for gender, sexuality, and race in our our sports psych or psychology on campus.
Yeah.
It was voting initiatives. So that's kind of how it started. And I said, even though I graduated, I still want to give back to the community.
Yeah, I actually saw one of your Instagram posts about some of these conversations you've been having and what you asked of the FDU athletic department. And based on student responses, some of the things you suggested were proper representation and counseling, like you mentioned, race seminars, increasing involvement with Hackensack's predominantly Black and Hispanic community, an increased number of referees of color. Are you optimistic these changes will be made? And why do you think students wish to see changes in these specific areas?
I think it would be naive to be optimistic that it will change, at least for right now. Because one, having representation in sports psych is not possible because there's no real on-campus activity. We can't help people of color in Hackensack and Teaneck because it's COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So there are things that I'm not optimistic about because I'm a realistic person. But as far as um, like the direction of making sure that people of color at FDU are like protected, I see that there is some like move, especially from Brad, because I even talked to him last week, and he said, "Don't think I forgot about this. Like, I really want to make a change for our school." So I am optimistic that, you know, even though I'm gone, that Brad will make sure that these things are covered.
The FDU's voter registration initiative seems to have begun with a survey you conducted last year. Can you talk a little bit more about what that survey was and what your findings were?
Yeah, so the survey wasn't last year, it was a couple months ago. Um, and I'm not sure what the results are because I left it up to her name is Madison Towley, and she's
Mhm,
in our athletic staff.
mhm.
But I haven't looked at the results yet. But I do know that in our first like week and a half, over 100 students filled out the survey, and it's not just for student athletes; it's any student at FDU who's involved in any kind of club, whether it be Greek
Okay.
life or athletics or chess club, anything,
Mhm.
because it's for the students, not just for the athletes.
What kind of inspired you to do that? Why did you want to make that survey?
Because when I was seeing all of these Black people dying
Mhm.
because of police brutality, um, I felt very hopeless, and I was like, "How can this change?" And I realized that if we want our voice to be heard, we need to be represented by someone who wants to hear our voices. So I realized that, you know, you can have as many protests as you want, you can have as many petitions being signed. That's not going to change anything. You need people in power who want things to change. So that was kind of like the root of this voter initiative.
Yeah, that's very similar to the NEC Votes Initiative. Our kind of goal is just to provide educational resources and just help in any way we can so people are prepared and ready to vote on November 3rd or prior because it's mail in.
Yes.
Um, But leading up to November 3rd, what you kind of wish that students and student athletes better understand about the voting process? Because I think there
Um,
are a lot of misconceptions.
yeah, kind of like what you said, like with the NEC doing their initiative, just education. Because even for me, I didn't even know a lot of the things that I've known like recently because a lot of people are talking about, all right, you need to vote. Because I've only voted once because I'm only 22. So, yeah, I just wish that there were more education because yes, you can say, all right, vote now, but how do you vote? What
Yeah,
is
exactly.
like instead of going to the ballot, like what is this in mail thing? A lot of people don't know. There's, you know, the primaries and this and that. So it's just great to have some kind of education so people know why they're voting and how to vote, not just to vote.
Yeah, because I think by now we kind of know, yeah, like we should vote. But before I started doing a lot of the research for NEC votes, I had no clue how to mail in vote. I didn't know how to do it myself. It's like, well, how
Yes,
can I be asking other people to do it if I don't know how to do it myself?
exactly. And
Exactly.
another thing that you were saying that, you know, just rang in my head was you were researching.
Mhm.
A lot of people are lazy. I'm not going to lie, I'm lazy. So if you're saying, oh, okay, you know, learn how to do all this stuff, I don't even know where to start. And I'm not going to spend an entire week learning how to just vote.
Yeah.
So just making these resources like accessible and making it like very easy to read instead of saying, okay, like, if you want to learn how to do this one thing, it takes a lot of effort and time and prior knowledge to do it. Where I just want it to be very simple, straightforward, you know, either like, you know, video or, you know,
Mhm.
some kind of simple text so that people can just get the gist of it.
Yeah, exactly. And something else I've kind of seen is that every state has different rules. We're lucky in New Jersey that it's a little more straightforward, especially with the mail in process. And most of the NEC states have very simple mail in rules and all allow for mail in voting, which is great. But other states have so many rules and you just don't know. And especially during COVID, there's so much we don't know to begin with and so much we have to think about and stress about. So it's just been kind of good to have a one stop shop, if that
Yeah,
makes
yes.
sense.
And kind of like what you were saying, in case anyone else is like in a different state that's listening
Mhm.
to this, I think Jason Young told me about this website called Rock the Vote. And I
Yes.
believe if you're in a different state, it will tell you like the rules on how you should vote in those different states. So just wanted
Rock
to.
the Vote and vote.org. But I do think, yeah, there are a few different schools within the NEC that are using different um, websites, but yeah, like things like that are super great and they kind of tell you everything you need to know in one place.
Yes.
And just kind of like by way of wrap up, I know you touched upon this a little bit earlier, but why is it so important for young people to vote? What do you want them to take away from this?
I guess the reason why it's important to vote, especially at our age, because things are affecting us now.
Mm.
And I didn't realize it because you're in college, like it doesn't matter. And now I'm like an adult. It's like weird to say, but it's like, okay, like you have to like learn how to do your taxes and different things like affect you. So me like graduating and getting ready to move out and getting a job and stuff, I'm realizing that, if I did vote,
Yeah.
prior to, but if I hadn't, those things would affect me going forward. So anyone who's like a junior or a senior in college and they're not thinking about this now, it will affect you when you graduate or even in school. But I mean, people don't think about that now because they're, focused on homework or, practice. They're not thinking about outside of those things.
Mhm.
So it's very important, to vote for that reason.
Yeah, definitely. And I was, the last election was also the first election general election that I could vote in. And I found that a lot of people just didn't vote because they felt it didn't, like their voice wouldn't be heard, or I live in like this state or this state and it's not, it's not going to change, but it really can. When I was doing, my research, I found so many different kind of like state and local elections that were decided by 1 to 2 votes. So yeah, it's just definitely important that people get out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Natalia, thank you so much for being here today. It was great to hear you and, thank you for getting on.
Yes, no problem. Anytime. I'd love to talk to you guys soon.
Awesome. NEC fans, don't forget to follow the Northeast Conference's social channels for important information every Tuesday regarding voter registration and November 3rd's general election as part of our NEC Votes initiative. That was Natalia Toby, and this has been NEC Now.